Buddy, this is Colleen with Speaking of Spirits, and I'm going to do a short episode today because I wanted to talk a little bit about an investigation that we did last night at Gate City Coffee in Pocatello. If you're not familiar with Gate City Coffee, it's in Old Town Pocatello. They've done an absolutely fabulous job of redecorating that space, and it is one of the finest coffee shops that I've been in. A lot of historical photos in there of Old Town Pocatello. It's on Center Street, in between Main and Arthur. What was interesting when we first came in and set up, and this happens to us on so many investigations, is when we come in and we set up, and we, as in Pocatello Paranormal Research, which is the team that we have. The Speaking of Spirits is our podcast component of it. But when we come in and set up, usually the activity starts right away. It's fast. And that certainly happened last night. We had every piece of equipment hitting almost immediately. We had REM pods, static detectors, EMF detectors, K2 meters. Let's see, you name it, we had it. I mean, it was really pretty incredible. So not only is it a really neat space, but there's a lot of activity in there. And we did make contact with a gentleman who said his name was Charles. How do we know that? Well, we do have mediums that work on our team, and things come to them. Things come to most people. You just have to kind of tune in and understand what you're hearing or what you're seeing, or like, why did that name just pop in my head? When you become skilled at it, you rely on those instincts. So a gentleman named Charles was kind of front and center during the investigation, for the early part of the investigation. And he indicated that he had been in that there was a title company in the building. So I think the building was built like in the late 1800s, like 1887 or so. And for the first like 15 years or so, it was a church, a non-denominational church. Then it burned down, and then it was rebuilt. And so there's two foundations on the building, and one of the foundations is the oldest foundation in Pocatello, apparently. And then after it burned down, the church relocated. When it was rebuilt, the building was rebuilt. It became a title company for a while. And this man indicated that he had worked at a title company. He thought he was still working at the title company. And that, you get that once in a while, like the dead don't know they're dead. And how horrible is that, to like work in death? I couldn't even believe how unimaginably bad that is, right? So we talked with him, and we explained what year it was, and that it's 2023, and he was very confused. I'm using the dowsing rods. The mediums are talking with him. We could all feel like his major confusion. And he did indicate that he missed his wife. And there was a lot of confusion on his end, because he's still at his desk, but he can't find his wife. Like I don't know what happens, obviously, in death when that happens. Do they go home to an empty house? I don't know. So that part of it we don't understand, but we were able to help him understand that he was dead and that he could cross. And as soon as he did, the room felt lighter. And we never felt any negative presence whatsoever at Gate City Coffee. The people who were in the building loved the building. They were attached to the building. They were either attached to the church, or they were attached to whatever other business was there, or patrons of, and they love the building. They love the space, and they're not going away anytime soon. So if you're sitting there and you're having a cup of coffee and you see somebody out of the corner of your eye who's not there when you turn your head, it's one of these people. We did have a lot of whispers. We had some movement, some shadows going on in the building, a lot of activity downstairs. There is a small area of the downstairs that's like their office, and there's a fear cage effect down there in that, and I'm not quite sure why. In a fear cage, or as Leanne called it, like the death tomb or something like that. I forget what she said last night, but A fear cage is when you go into a building and there is such high EMF readings in a room that it'll overwhelm your senses. So you'll feel like you're being watched. You get kind of that creep sensation. The hair on the back of your neck or your arms will kind of stand up. That feeling of paranoia sets in. That fear cage effect is real. And it's like people who live under really intense electric transmission lines. They kind of get the same feeling. It can affect you. It can affect your psyche and how you feel. So there is a fear cage effect down there in that room. And interestingly, the equipment read stronger towards the ground than it did on the ceiling, but there were still readings throughout the whole 8 foot. So is there some kind of huge transmission line under the building? I don't know. I don't think so. And the reason why is because when you cross the threshold, it stops. It's just right there. So I'm not sure what that effect is from. And it's going to take some investigation. And so I'm going to go back and we're going to try to figure it out with the owner. What's going on down here just in this room? Because that's weird. You would think if it's a transmission line, you could trace it through the whole building, and we could not. It stopped at the threshold. It started when you came down to the bottom of the stairs, and then they have a prep area for making like their scones or pastries. Then they have an office. It's right there, just in that space, and I can't figure out why. But during the investigation, we had a great time. The owner of the coffee shop, the owners are just terrific people. Their daughter did work with us last night. I think Gabby was wonderful. She was very quiet. I think she could have been a little bit overwhelmed at times, but she was a trooper. She hung right in there. I really, really recommend that you go in and show them some love. Buy some coffee. They have a great gift shop. It's just a wonderful place. It's a wonderful atmosphere. And I want you to hit us up on our Pocatello Paranormal Research Facebook page or send us a message on Google and let us know if you have activity when you go in there. Do you see a shadow? Did you see a glimpse of a lady in a long dress? Because we did. I don't know. Is Charles back at work at his desk? Let us know.